All right, so as you can see, I got my big block sitting here on the stand, and I'm prepping it to go to the machine shop. And my next step is to remove the oil galley plugs. So I'm gonna bring y'all along as I do it, because oil galley plugs can be an absolute nightmare to remove, because they just basically seize themselves into the block over all the years of heating cycles and stuff. So I'm gonna use this little map gas torch here to persuade them from their home. And since big block Chevrolets like to use their pipe plug style oil galley plugs, it was a perfect excuse to buy some oil galley plug sockets, because all of mine have disappeared except for a couple, and one of the ones was broken and still sitting in my box. I guess I thought I was going to replace it. But hey, any excuse to buy new tools. So I'm gonna test these out as I use my torch, and I'm gonna bring y'all along because I got pipe plugs or oil galley plugs on the side, the front, and on the back of this block. So let's dive on here and get it done. That one's not so bad. That was chewed up real bad. That one looks just about rounded out. I think that actually is. So, yeah. So, yeah, I'm doing a little bit of, just doing some inspection of my oil galley plugs before I actually dive into trying to heat them and remove them. Just got them all cleaned out, and they look like they're in pretty bad shape. Considering this engine was rebuilt before I got a hold of it, it looks like somebody may have tried to remove these oil galley plugs and decided that they just leave them in place and deal with them later, or let somebody else deal with them like me. So looks like I might have to actually break out the drill bit and the ease out to get the back two especially out. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And also, I wanted to, before I dive in, I want to explain about using a map gas versus an oxy acetylene torch. I currently don't have an oxy acetylene torch. I got most of the stuff, but balling on a budget, I couldn't afford to get the tanks and stuff right now. So while I was at Tractor Supply, I picked up that map gas torch, and I figured that since most people are on a budget, you rather spend your money on your engine parts than on stuff like a torch, if that's not something you use all the time. I figured I'd give the map gas torch a try. I've seen them used before on this kind of deal and worked, but something as stuck on as these are, that might be a challenge. So I want to give it a try and bring y'all along as I do it with the map gas. And I may just have to break down and dig them all out with some ease outs. So we're going to find out on that. So let me get started and get the torch warmed up and get after it. So this is going to be fun. So I started first with the plugs that were rounded out. It wasn't even worth trying to heat the plugs, so I just drilled them and used an ease out. From my experience drilling plugs like this out, I find that using a bit that just fits in the edge of the hole and uses the hole as a guide to keep my bit straight and centered. Whatever you do, don't let the bit get crooked or you will be in a world of hurt. Once the plug is drilled, I will tap the ease out into the plug to help it get a bite. In my mind, the shock can help break the corrosion and threads loose, but the downside is that the ease out kind of will swell the plug into the threads, so just be careful with that. Then the real fun begins when you try to break the plugs loose. Thankfully, my plugs gave up pretty easily and I was able to pull them free. Once I get the plug turning, I will tap on the ease out to break it free from the plug. Then I can spin the plug the rest of the way out. Sometimes this works, but other times you may have to tighten and loosen the plug a couple of times to make the ease out release the plug. When you get the plug removed, you want to see the hole drilled straight and centered into the plug. That way you know that you have no thread damage. I repeated the steps on the next plug as it was messed up too, and again, it came out pretty easily and it was drilled square and centered. The front side plug looked to be in decent shape, so I used a torch on it. You can see as the plug heats up, the heat is transferring into the block as well, which ain't good. I hoped that it would still expand and contract enough to break the plug free, but instead it just made everything hot. Once I figured it had been heated enough, I gave it a couple good smacks with a punch, and then I hit it with a PB blaster to hopefully break the threads loose. You can use wax here also, but I didn't have any, so I just used a good old PB blaster on it. I tried the plug socket, but instantly rounded it out. So I broke out the drill and ease out and had it removed in no time. The front plug was in good shape, so I figured I would try to break it free without the heat since it was a larger plug. I wanted to see that if the larger plug would hold up better, but no, it rounded out instantly, so I hit it with the drill and the ease out also. When I tried to tap the ease out to get it to release from the plug, it wouldn't. So I tightened the plug back into place, which released the ease out, and then it came out. It did take a couple tries to get the plug to come free, but it finally did. I'm letting this play at normal speed so that you can see it's tedious, but it's still doable if you're patient. Near the cam bore on the front of the block, you will find two plugs that are in the lifter bore feeds. Both of mine had tiny bleed holes drilled into them, which is something to take note and save it for later. These plugs were a hex head, so I tried my little impact on them, and the first one, it came free pretty easily, but the second one didn't, so I had to drill it out and use an ease out also. Man, I am so glad that I had no major issues getting those old galley plugs out. Biggest thing is to take your time and just to keep working at it. I was really rooting for the MAP gas torch to work. Having to use these outs is something that you really don't want to have to do unless you absolutely have to do, because that's kind of a last resort kind of deal. But I had, I had the bad plugs with a couple of them were already bad and rounded out. So I had to use it, and the MAP gas, it really wasn't working this well. And even though I was rooting for it to work, so I wouldn't have to use these outs, it just doesn't get hot enough fast enough. So you're not able to focus enough heat to the plugs. And by the time you get the plugs hot, you've got the block itself hot, and it doesn't allow for the differences in the thermal expansion to allow the plug itself to break free of the corrosion and sealant. So it just wasn't working out. So I gave up on it. I'll use it for something else. And it started feeling like an infomercial for ease outs there for a bit, but I mean, they come right out, and I was thoroughly pleased with that. And now that I got them out, I have several more things to do this block before I get it to the machine shop. And the machinist called me just a couple days ago and said he's ready for me as soon as I get it dropped off. So I got to hurry up so I can get this thing to him so he can do the machine work and get it back. And I got to say, doing this kind of work, it's always something that I like to do, to be able to do as much of the work as I can myself. And that's what I'm trying to help and encourage y'all to do. If you're working on stuff, I like to be able to do as much of this work. That way the machinist can focus on what he specializes in, and I can do all the grunt work I can, all the cleaning and nitpicky stuff. That way all I gotta do is drop it off. He can hot tank it, clean it, inspect it, bore it, hone it, do all the stuff he needs to do it, get it back to me so I can start throwing speed parts on it, which is what I'm about to do right now. So I've got to get a couple freeze plugs out the back now that I got it off my stand, and then I'm going to clean all the oil galleys out with some brushes, knock the cam bearings out of this, and then I'm gonna do some deburring work on this block to clean it up so paint will stick and oil flowing and stuff, and get the stress risers out of places. So y'all check back on my channel so y'all can see the other how-tos. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe so you can see all the other videos and all my other adventures. And y'all keep on coming back right here at AllieCat Customs.